I want to end the podcast talking about this Arizona ruling today. Arizona ruled 4-2 to make nearly all abortions illegal. And Democrats are having a come apart about this, claiming it's another attack on human rights. Or not human rights, sorry, on women's rights. With birth rates declining, we need to promote births. And the argument of pro-choice being for women and for women's rights is ironic, considering they're taking away the greatest gift that women have inherently, which is to produce another life. And the fact of the matter is, if you don't want to have a baby, then don't have sex in the first place. Sex is not something for your own desires. It's not something to fulfill your own needs and for enjoyment. It's a sacred thing to produce a life. And it's extremely selfish if someone can't raise a baby, if they're not able to do it financially, or if the situation is just not good to bring a human life into this, then you need to be responsible and not have sex in the first place. It's selfish. Abortion is ultimately the most selfish thing you can do. To produce another life in the womb when you were doing it for your own selfish desires and then ending another life, that same life, because it's inconvenient for you, is the most selfish thing you could do. And, obviously there's cases of rape and incest where, they were victims of that, and that's obviously horrible, but adoption exists for that reason. There's no reason to end a life, period, whether it's for your own inconvenience or not. Things like adoption exist for that reason. There's no excuse to end a life, and the child deserves to have a chance at life. The narrative of the mother being at risk, too, for giving birth is highly exaggerated, and those problems are solved with a C-section. So adoptions and C-sections eliminate the excuses from the left on why abortion should be allowed. And like I said, with birth rates in decline, we need to be promoting births. And I saw a Democrat saying that today as if it was a bad thing. He's like, the right wants to stop abortions because birth rates are in decline, kind of mocking it. Yeah, that's a problem, not only for the United States, but globally. I've talked about the birth rates being in decline on past episodes in the United States, but we're at 1.66 birth rates per woman when in the 70s we were 3.7, something like that. We need to bring that number back up. We need more babies. And the government, like the Biden administration, likes to replace American babies with third world workers for lower wages and new voters. That's a problem. And like I said, it's inherently selfish because the greatest gift that women have inherently is to produce a life. And to get rid of that is selfish, and it's sad because, you can make, like I said, there's no excuse to end a life and to get rid of a baby's chance to have a life. There's ways around it. And if there's any health issues, a C-section solves most of those. I was a C-section baby. Those problems can be solved. And if you don't want to raise the baby yourself, then adoption exists. There are ways around it. There's no excuse to end a life. And getting rid of your gift to be a mother, which is the greatest gift that women have, when they say they want to get rid of that, the left likes to say they want to get rid of that for women's rights. They think you're stupid. And ironically, they're taking away your greatest gift. Oh, it's for women's rights. If you want to promote women's rights, tell women to be responsible. If they can't raise a baby on their own, don't have sex in the first place, and be a responsible human being. Instead of enabling people who can't afford to have a baby to have sex for their own desires and for their own enjoyment, when that sex is a sacred thing between a man and a woman to produce another life, you're doing something that is made to produce a life. And then you're getting mad when a life is produced and then ending a life, committing murder. There's no that is evil, first off, but you're not being a responsible adult. So let's push for responsibility to not have sex until you're ready to have a baby. And when it's crazy, right? To think when you partake in an act that is made to produce a life and then a life is produced, God forbid that happen, that's on you. It's not on the baby. It's not the baby's fault that it was conceived, and the baby doesn't deserve to get murdered for that. If you don't want to raise it yourself, fine, put it up for adoption. If there's health issues with the birth process, fine, have a C-section. There's ways around it. It's selfish and it's irresponsible to have an abortion. And, rulings like this are good. This is a good sign, especially in Arizona, of all places, which is primarily left. But Democrats are having a come apart about this. And, if you're so pro-women, like the left claims that they are, and they say that the right isn't, stop trying to take away women's greatest gift inherently to produce a life, and, promote them to be responsible adults instead of, degrading them and enabling them to continue just to sleep with whoever they want when they aren't responsible enough and aren't able to properly raise a child. You're partaking in an act that is made to produce a life. So don't be surprised when a life is produced and then you're not able to kill that for your own convenience. You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to commit murder for your own convenience. So, instead of running towards the abortion route, maybe we should promote responsibility. And like I said, obviously awful cases like rape and incest happens, and I'm not promoting that. I'm not for that. That stuff is awful. But the baby still has a right to exist. And I don't blame women for not wanting to raise their own rapist's baby. I wouldn't want to either if I was a woman. Put it up for adoption. Don't end a life. Don't end what will be a life. So, like I said, there's ways around everything. And I'm not belittling instances like rape and incest that happen. Obviously, they're horrible. And it makes me sick to my stomach. But the bottom line is, and this is not just about birth rates. The bottom line is a baby has a right to have a chance at life. And birth rates is a part of that, but this is not an argument simply for numbers and birth rates. This is a moral argument. Nobody has a right to end a baby's life for their own convenience, period. And like I said, I'm not belittling the awful cases of rape and incest, but adoption exists. Go that route. Please don't end that baby's chance to have a life. So all that to say that, this ruling is a good sign, but keep that in mind when you see that Democrats want to say that this is an attack on women's rights. Keep in mind who's trying to get rid of the greatest gift that women have in raising a life and producing a life. They're not pro-women. They're pro their own agenda. And you can go down a dark route of why the left's pushing abortion. But the bottom line is they're wanting to get rid of women's greatest gift to produce a life. So you can't claim to be pro-women. If you're really pro-women, promote women to be more responsible and be responsible adults. And don't degrade them to allow them to continue these irresponsible and selfish acts and then have a easy way out. That's not how life works. Don't partake in an act to produce another life and then end that life because it's inconvenient for you. So that's my rant on abortion for today. I've done that rant before, but this ruling today, it's a good ruling, obviously, to make nearly all abortions illegal. And, Trump actually just did a speech talking about how he wants abortion to be a state issue. I realize what he's doing politically. It's a smart move there. But, getting rid of Roe v. Wade, having less government and giving the states power, that's a route we should go down anytime we get a chance to go down that route. But, morally, baby has a right to exist and to have a chance at life. It should be protected and should have constitutional protection. But with the birth rates in decline, and obviously, like I just said, the moral argument, abortion is the most selfish thing you could do. And you're not pro-women when you're promoting women to get rid of their greatest gift, which is to produce a life. And be a responsible adult. If you're not willing to bring a baby into this world, then don't have sex in the first place, period.